So, we are going to get into it and talk a lot about well-being and change and what's happening in organizations today. So, I'd like to take a few minutes and ask our panelists to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their history, where they've come from, current organization, and maybe even just speak to why wellness is so important for you today.
Amazing. So I'll start off with, my name's Josh Edwards. I'm the Senior Director of People and Performance for Johnvince Foods. When I do my introductions, I typically break it into two categories. So my why, a little bit about myself. I'm a father and a husband. I live in Barrie, Ontario. And my what is to lead the People and Performance function for 18 businesses throughout North America. When I look at my story, I started with St. Joseph's Health Systems, starting in long-term care and community, before evolving into food manufacturing and CPG. So Johnvince Foods, we are one of the largest food manufacturers in North America. Notable brands, Planters Peanuts, Candida Candy, Danini Chocolates, a large list, multidisciplined, multi-site organization. So when I think of wellness, I think of the community we create with a system of 2,000 people. And it's what brings me to work every day and continues to bring me to work.
Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Layla. We are a mental health service. We offer therapy in person and online across 4 provinces in Canada. I guess I'll be speaking here from the perspective of my work as leading my organization, as well as what we are seeing from the 30,000 or so folks that we've supported in Canada with their mental well-being. For me, my why, I'm a big believer in human potential, and well-being is an important unlock to human potential. You know, we're all born with so much potential, and then there's barriers to it. Where we're born, the languages we speak, our socioeconomic status, our physical health, and then our mental well-being sometimes can act as a barrier. And when we are well, we can express ourselves more and achieve more. And I guess as an engineer, I also like to think about things a little bit more analytically. And I find that well-being has a huge scale factor. So if I'm well, I find that my family around me is more likely to be happy. My teammates are more likely to be well. So well-being is kind of like contagious that way. So that's my why. And I think whether it's with our clients, we're helping them grow and achieve their potential. And we kind of think about the same thing with our own employees and teammates as well.
Great. So we're going to kick it off with some questions. So I think I'll ask both of you a general question first, and so that I don't forget it, I actually have it written down, so I will start to read it. So many sectors and companies are undergoing rapid transformation where well-being has become a critical determinant of engagement and performance. Can you share an experience of a transformation, its impact to the business and its people, and how you integrated change management into the practices for success?
Amazing. So we all had to live through the COVID pandemic, and I think the COVID pandemic, there was lots of learning on how to be resilient, nimble, and able to address when we needed to. On my table, what I'm addressing in this moment is we've transformed Johnvince Foods into a Johnvince company, creating an enterprise. So creating one voice that could speak to the pulse of 18. And when we look at how does that come into play, each business we've always owned, purchased, acquired, has been built on a family. A family built it, they became one bigger family. So one transformation that we've been embracing is the North Star. So some people are familiar with North Stars, some people are not. It's a fancy way to sit and say your purpose, vision, and values. So we brought together executives from 18 businesses to create one North Star, one purpose that we can then speak towards as we have ambitious goals to grow and create that unity when we look at cross-functional teams from Belleville to Quebec to Texas to Ohio with one voice. So that one voice, that one company is able to achieve incredible things. Our purpose is to exceed customer cravings one bite at a time, and we look at a customer as every person we interact with. My day today, I'm interacting with like-minded professionals, where my team is helping support the customers within our organization. Our teams are people, and our sales team and everyone else in our enterprise is taking care of the end users, us. At the end of the day, food. We love food. We love bringing people together for cherished moments, and having a purpose that highlights that and drives the direction of our business has created a huge impact as we continue to evolve. As they called out to separate the two rooms, we're going through a technology enablement as well. It's an incredibly hot topic, whether it's here or in other conferences, a lot of discussions about integrating LLMs, large language models, AI, different systems to help create what we do, but we can't lose our North Star. We can't lose our focus. We can't lose our sight on our people. And that is one thing that we are currently focused on, whether it's an SAP implementation, whether it's the one voice of a company, or how we're totally rewarding our staffs as one team.
No, that's great. And I really like the way you use the word family. I think that when it comes to well-being and looking at change, we really have to always remember what anchors us. So well done.
So we try to avoid transformation. And I guess my view as a leader is that transformation is a symptom of lack of ongoing development. But change is always present. So maybe I'll talk about that more broadly. And I guess because both you and I work in healthcare, I'll use a healthcare reference. Folks know vaccines, right? Vaccines, you kind of most of the time don't need them. They're really helpful when you do, and a lot of the time they're there to help other people too. And I think about organizational rituals often the same way. So for us, some of the kind of preventative things we do organizationally that help us stay strong and constant when there is change are ultimately what allow well-being to continue to be there even when there's a lot of change and stress. So, we start with our annual planning, our 4 quarterly offsites. We know in advance what each one is for. We can have something called retro week at the end of every quarter, and then planning week, how we involve people in it. Every teammate at Layla has a one-on-one weekly or bi-weekly that is largely driven by the employee, not the manager, as a way to support their success. And we have our Friday huddle. Somebody talked about, I think it was Jamie this morning, talked about presence. So it's very important to also have that kind of presence together, as well as leaders being there. So for me, I spend a lot of time focusing on organizational ritual design as a way to enable the company to always handle change or transformation if the need comes for that.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to play off of what you just talked about, so ritual design and organizations. And let's take a look at what that means over the last number of years. So again, we all know that we've come through COVID. It changed our environment. It changed how we live, how we work, how we think, and even what we hold true to value. So when you're looking at that in an organization and you look at the demographics and all of the changes, from a data perspective, what does that look like in terms of how you've had to adapt your programs, your policies, and your practices to make sure that the employees that you have are looked after?
So for us, I think we have the advantage of also seeing what's happening broadly in the sector. And I'll talk about well-being as a starting point. So even though conversations about mental health have become less stigmatized, when it actually comes to seeking help, we still see large disparities based on demographic groupings. So for example, if you take a gender lens, today 70 or 80% of our new clients or patients, we use those terms interchangeably, 70 or 80% are female identifying. Even though men, for example, or other genders have increasingly talking more about well-being, they're less likely to go out and get help. We notice that often their cases are more complex. For example, their most recent data that I'm aware of, they're three times more likely to suicide. So there's still, we see a lot of stigma around well-being when it comes to actually seeking help. So being aware of the demographic differences in how people behave, as well as their needs. Like, for example, parents have different needs and different priorities than non-parents. We kind of incorporate what we learn from what we do and try to kind of integrate some of that knowledge into how we design our organization so it's inclusive for various groups to allow them to do the best work.
Well said. Yeah, the inclusive environment for me, that's where I'll come and talk on. The manufacturing side is incredibly male-dominated. As many would assume, one thing that we do have a focus on, how do we create a balance and ensure the voices of our organization are heard on all levels. So it is something that I'll say the Pool of Family started with, family-owned business, family-operated, and as we've continued to grow, we have stayed true to that component that we do want all voices in a room when we look at representation on decisions on how we operate and move forward. We've created, in my time, and this is a bit of learning coming from a healthcare system where its resources and benefits look slightly different to a privately held organization. My first on my list was we have to have an EAP program. The staff must have EAP. Something we used every single day at St. Joe's, and it was a talking point in every meeting. Make sure our teams have the resources. And then we brought this into Johnvince Foods, and we have a different appetite, a different voice, and a different need. And so when I look at us culturally, we've stayed true throughout the test of time and continue to enhance our practices, not necessarily completely change when we look at how we support our staff, because they've done an exceptional job throughout their legacy of leading. Our average tenure is 15 years of service. When you look at manufacturing, that's unheard of in our space. Yeah.
We also really try to separate values, like organizational values, from culture. So we like to have very values coherent, aligned folks on the team. We interview for it. It's incorporated in feedback, performance management. But when it comes to people's, I guess, culture, behaviors, personalities, we want to have diversity there, and kind of acknowledging the difference there is helpful, and values as much as possible, turning them into organizational expectations versus this is what dependable means for us at Layla, and so it's very tangible. Allows your people to then be themselves otherwise, because how they're expected to succeed in the organization is very clearly outlined. So then they can otherwise feel included and or can be included, because those things can be, they can be whatever they are for every person, as long as there's alignment on the company values.
Great. So alignment to values for our culture. We talked a little bit about measurement. So let's dive into that one a little bit more. So we all know, and we keep hearing, that we have to do more with less. It's a bit of a theme for us. So what methods, tools, programs have you found effective in implementing changes to support mental well-being during times of rapid and or prolonged change?
So for us, what we're working on implementing currently, it goes back to the values implementation and metrics and how we evaluate. So value-based organization and how we evaluate your function during the interview process to what you're delivering day in and day out. Do you walk our purpose day in and day out? We've introduced management by objectives, so that's the clear metrics that then go with it. So when you look at measurables, you have to be able to perform and deliver for our business to continue to grow, but you also have to fit in within your teams and what we expect from our team members. The comment, if you can just refresh me, Debbie, because there was a point I was going to there.
My question?
Yes.
Absolutely. So as we're focusing on doing a lot more with less, what are some of the practical tools that you've implemented to help bring about success for individuals when we're dealing with mental wellness in the workplace?
So we have a Johnvince culture committee, more or less. What the focus of this committee is how do we hear the voice of our staff, what they would like to do. I'm a big believer in exercise, fitness. I grew up playing competitive sports, so we do our best to ensure we look at them holistically as a human and as a performer. We have several different challenges. One that's coming up that I'll plug into this discussion is called Going the Nutty Distance. I started this with St. Joe's in a mobile program where they were responsible for supporting 86 long-term care homes, a multidisciplinary team of 100 people. The cost is minute, it's pretty much non-existent, but the intention of that is to create a team, and whether you're walking, hiking, running, biking, you track those kilometers and it moves you on a virtual map. So it creates the camaraderie within the teams, it creates the sorts of connection and commitment to achieving a goal. So what we've done is we've averaged about 250 participants, so really proud of that. But the race is always to visit all the sites. And as we visit our different sites, whether you're visiting our manufacturing site, everyone gets a chocolate prize. You get a peanut prize, you get a candy prize, to showcase all the hard work that people are doing and helping recognize that. We have special spaces, when I sit and say special spaces, allocated for staff members, whether it's for prayer, whether it's for meditation, whether it's for just a little bit extra. An internal food bank that we're able to help support those who are in need. And there was one more at the tip of my tongue, but it might come back to me.
Cool.
Wow, you're doing a lot. So part of the question was around, how do you do more with less? And maybe I'll talk about failure. Experimentation and failure can lead to productivity, and the answers are often with the front line. The question is, how do you design a psychologically safe environment for people to experiment, fail, but then also surface those productivity opportunities, right? One thing that took us a while to get to, but we kind of finally found the right vocabulary and therefore, or connected that the process, is to define what experimentation means at Layla and what it doesn't mean. So first of all, failure, there's the first category, which is just like a preventable error. Like every day I drive to work, I'm supposed to take this exit. I should take it. I didn't take it. It was a mistake. There was either a process thing there. My phone wasn't charged, or I don't know, I was absent-minded. Nothing to celebrate. The second is what we call like a complex failure. Like I didn't want to experiment, but the project is so complex, you're going to make some mistakes. Like maybe you're organizing a conference like this one. This didn't happen today, but like the food is delayed, right? So you look at the process, how can you get better? But then there's this third type that is like really interesting, which is when do you take intentional bets in uncharted territory where you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but you have a hypothesis, and you may or may not succeed, but that at that point, because it is so uncertain, you have to celebrate the learning and not the outcome. So by the way, I borrow a lot from Amy Edmondson on this, if anybody's curious, and we've worked to kind of define that experimentation model. And one thing we used to do a lot that we just brought back is we have a quarterly failure party. So we get up on stage, people kind of line up, and they'll say, okay, this was the uncharted territory, this was my goal, this was my hypothesis, this was my experiment, and I totally failed. And then people will start, they'll put music and we'll be celebrating. And what we're also doing there is saying, where could my failure have been smarter? As in, was my experiment way bigger than it needed to be? Could I have contained it? Did I get hung up on something and not looked at the data? Or did I forget what my hypothesis was or my goal was and got really excited about the process? So that's something we've found enables people more, to the point of the first speaker today. Enablement for me, it's true, it drives engagement. I do think it actually is a driver for well-being as well. And we have a lot of fun with it.
No, that's good. And not that you ever want to come to Orillia, Ontario, but if you ever do, you can pop by my office. I have this chalkboard wall, and there's a couple of statements that are on my wall, and one of them happens to be, failure is an opportunity in disguise. And I think that's a little bit of the sentiment of what you were saying, and we need to be prepared to look at that in our organizations. There's so much learning that can be had from that. I think that's really helpful. So another question. So we are at the Employee Experience Summit. When we look at engaging employees in the work that we do and shaping the culture of an organization, can you give us an example of where you've used or leveraged employee feedback that's actually resulted in a change to policy or practice for the betterment of well-being?
Yeah, for sure. On my side, so I've been with the company for about 3 years. It's 50 years of legacy, and family-owned, and how we operated historically may look different naturally than how we operate today. So one of the first things we've implemented and continue to evolve is the employee voice, so an engagement survey. We populate surveys quarterly, so one pulse check as well as one more or less that dives deeper and larger across all business units. We have an 85% target rate, 85% satisfaction. I mean, that's our goal. We want to make sure our teams are happy, and we implement different drivers to identify where to focus. So one of the items is communication. I think communication, when you look at change, is always incredibly hot topic. OCM with our SAP implementation, organizational change management, there's always opportunities to do better. We've introduced bi-monthly town halls so the teams can understand exactly how we're performing to the level we're able to share, upcoming updates, how they're winning, areas for improvement, an engaged president who walks our floors whenever he's on site. But using their voice was an identification of communication as a real need in order for their continued journey. So with that, we took communication, created career maps, implemented a learning management system that's allowing them to then grow within our infrastructure, removing silos and barriers. And when you look at a well-being of a team member, living in ambiguity and confusion is one of the largest drivers we've found when we have someone depart from our organization. So we're working on peeling back, reverse engineering those responses, and providing the tools for people to continue to win.
We're much smaller, so maybe our examples tend to feel a little less systemized. But one thing we do is at the end of every quarter, we have something called Retro Week, where we retrospectively look at the quarter in a series of meetings. And so one thing we have done to get feedback and raise employee voice is to invite people from different teams to join the retrospectives of other people's teams, especially folks from the front line, or developers, product folks, and not only just join, but it's also how you design that retrospective. So the facilitator often asked to conduct an exercise in the retro that involves everyone. So we love meetings where everybody's forced to talk. Everybody's asked to talk in advance. Every Friday we do that, as well as a 30-40 person team where we each go around as a way to just make sure that we're kind of lowering the gap there between people and their position in the company and all these things. We're kind of given equal airtime, and also equal airtime in forms that are traditionally not theirs, like another team's retrospective. So that's been helpful. Another one, maybe just for laughs, a little bit about AI. Somebody on my team a month and a half ago told me, I got to stop talking about AI. It's like, listen, people are stressed. There's a big backlash. We get it. We're using it, and you are an engineer and you're enamored by it. But it's a bit much, and I really appreciated that, to be honest.
It's a bit much. Just saying.
It's a bit much.
AI. Sorry.
I was much.
Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. I do want to ask one quick question of each of you. And this came about from a discussion that we had in preparation for today. And I'd appreciate it if you would share what you mean by purpose-led organization.
I think a purpose-led organization is one where there is coherence between the mission, the strategy, and the operational practices.
For me, I'll go back to the North Star like we've sat and spoke about. No matter how in the weeds or how muddy the water starts to get, we know we can look up and directionally understand where our business is going, and if we're staying aligned with what our true north is, do we believe our values are going to keep us strong as we pursue challenges, tariffs. We've had to, in this manufacturing side, go through things I've never thought of, never understood prior to coming into Johnvince Foods, just like COVID when I was in healthcare. So it's all opportunities where, you know what, it might get a little gray, it might get a little dark, but you understand the purpose of us is to exceed customer cravings one bite at a time. I'll keep saying it, our values are everywhere in our organization, but as long as our team members believe in what our purpose is and what our North Star is, we do believe we'll achieve incredible things.
Great. Anything else? No? Okay, we've got just under 3 minutes, so we'll open it up to the floor to see if there are any questions.
Somebody over there.
Way over there.
Hi. So, more than a question, this is a tip that I'm looking for. If an organization is working through the same processes for past 30 years, and I come in and I want to change one of those processes or 3 of those processes, what is the best tip you can give me to do a soft launch for them of that change?
When I look at change, I come from a foundation of practices that have been instilled, and the appetite to change was non-existent. Talk about onboarding a new president. Change is painfully slow at times in recognizing, but understand your business and have that business case on where you'll see the return on investment depending on where you work, right? The sector or the category, but really understand the business and the use case and believe in it, right? If you believe in it and you're able to sell the story of what it will deliver, the appetite will come. And maybe you won't get the full win right off the bat, and you'll have to work your way through maybe 1 module versus 6 modules, a new payroll system versus an entire suite. That would be my recommendation. Is sometimes it's a lot slower, but go at the cadence your business is ready for. No problem.
And I think we have time for one more question if there is any.
Somebody there.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question. Definitely heard, I'm over here, sorry, I should probably stand up. Heard the reference to communications. What I didn't hear any talk of is change management methodology, like a pro-sci approach using the ADKAR model, especially when you're implementing potentially a new change or there's not a lot of buy-in. Do you use those kind of methodologies or pull from those frameworks to help prepare your organization and your employees for impending change?
We borrow a lot from Agile, so it's often used in software development, but we try to use it organizationally, which means that change is the constant. It's kind of actually similar to what therapy does with a human being. It's like you just got to accept that change is the constant, and how do you evolve your own process. So we try to do the same with the company. So we borrow from Agile. We try to focus on high impact outcomes as the next priority always, kind of driven by the problem space and not the solution space, and then just fast cycle of feedback and iteration.
And I will add that we actually just started with ProSci and ADKAR. Yes, so interestingly, last week, we do a quarterly offsite with all of our senior leaders, our directors, VPs, et cetera. And we actually had our third party come and do a bit of a soft launch intro into why change management is so critical at the juncture that we're at in the hospital. So we have a lot of programs, sophistication, et cetera, but what we're learning is that we're working so fast that we're not allowing people the opportunity to understand the change, learn it, embrace it. let alone have it be sustainable. So
Right.
in that realm, we actually have developed an ambassadorship model. So rather than have a team, we'll actually embed ambassadors across the organization to have change within their organization so that we push them through, and it's more ingrained and sustainable.
Sorry, I was just saying we see confusion sometimes when leading change between change management methodology and project management methodology. There's a lot of connection, but they sort of have slightly different functions.
So we actually have carved them out differently. So we have a PMO shop, we have a quality shop, and then we have change management. And we actually call it a triad, and they work together as it relates to any of the projects that we're looking at enterprise-wide. I think there was a question here, right? Yep.
And I was curious because I work for an organization, there's rapid change, it's so much going on, prioritization, all the things. And I'm wondering what has your organizations maybe put in place to support those going through the changes from a well-being perspective, because there is a lot of things going on all at one time. And when you start to prioritize, even outside of the workplace, they have things going on in their lives that are also changing. So just curious as to what supports might have been put in place to support them while the change is ongoing and then to the end.
I think first, we try to find the things that are constant and make sure they're visible. At Layla, we found that investing in professional development is actually really good for well-being. It's showing people that you're invested in them and their success. And it could happen in parallel and completely independent of what's happening in the organization. And we just completely kind of removed barriers on PD. So if it somewhat connects to your career today or in the future, you're welcome. The default answer is going to be yes, if it's within our kind of budget parameters and time parameters. We'll have people who just went and learned ASL, or people who use it for volunteering. Some people will use the budget to get a coach. And I think that is a constant that you can introduce the company's commitment to professional development that could kind of counterbalance the change.
I think we're out of time, everyone, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.